Good morning, Your Excellency, the President of Zimbabwe, President Emerson Mnangagwa, Your Excellency, the Prime Minister of Mozambique, Scott, the CIO of PIMCO, Your Excellency, the Minister of Rwanda, the Foreign Minister of Rwanda, Excellency, my former boss at the World Bank, and now the Chair of Gavi, Madam Gozo Okonjo-Iweala, and of course the CEO of Africa 50. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for being here with us. We are meeting here today under the theme of people, planet, and prosperity, because this is they are the themes of the SDGs and the Decade of Action. We are in 2020, and by 2030 we are hoping that Africa in particular would have been able to meet Agenda 2030 goals, leaving no one behind, reducing poverty on the continent. But more importantly, I think ensuring that as we try to get to Agenda 2030, we know that we cannot get all the 17 goals going at the same time. So one of the things that we decided to do at the Economic Commission for Africa, in partnership with the African Union and many other of our partners that are here today, was to say what are 2 or 3 of the important things that we need to do if we really, really wanted to make a difference between now and 2030. And I think many of you will agree with me in the room that if there is no light, then a lot of things nothing happens. Essentially, activity stops. We can't go to school. We can't charge our phones. We can't do M-Pesa. We can't ensure that kids are well. And so essentially, even as we dream of the 4th Industrial Revolution and as we dream of the sort of magic and the promise of innovation of ICT, 40% of technology is energy. 30% of agriculture is energy. And so if we cannot ensure that Africa has the right energy capacity and energy access, then we believe that 2030 is going to be a very distant dream. So that's why today, under the theme of planet and also prosperity, we want to talk about energy. And why planet? A few years ago, our leaders went to Paris, and they all committed on the continent to a couple of national determined contributions, which is essentially what Africa will do to ensure that we do our part on climate change. At the time, there were some resources that Africa was supposed to put on the table and some resources that would be put on the table for Africa to be able to meet its NDCs. For energy, we had about 22,000 megawatts of energy that we promised in our sort of national determined contribution. This is a very small amount and we need to do more. But countries could not do more because they couldn't find the financing. So we thought, what can we do to ensure that countries continue to stay on the climate change path? And as you know, and we've made this a big theme beginning with our Secretary General, the urgency of ensuring that we act on climate change was yesterday. We need to do more, we need to do faster. And as my colleagues in the climate change field will tell you, because Africa is in the equator, when we talk about 2%, we're talking about 2% on average. Africa, if the rest of the world gets to 2%, Africa will probably already be at 5%. So we would already be in that disaster zone and way past it. So we need, even though we are not the ones who have generated a lot of the climate risk, need to ensure that we are the first off the bat who are working on making sure that we can contribute to reducing climate. Energy, of course, is one of them, and doing renewable energies is clearly something that we're going to be looking at doing. That is why we're very happy to have PIMCO here, and as Scott will talk in a few minutes. PIMCO is the first time that PIMCO is coming on the continent. They manage almost $2 trillion worth of assets, and they're going to work with us to see how we can ensure that we can get clean energy onto the continent sooner and faster. Our objective is to try to see whether, together with Africa 50 and many others, the Development Bank of South Africa that's not here today, we can get about 10,000 megawatts of clean, renewable energy on the continent in a governance environment that is secure. The other thing that we'll be talking about today is health. And we know that when we talk about women, and the African Union has just declared this decade the Decade of Women, something that holds women back is health. And women start confronting the issue of healthcare, particularly during childbirth. And then it becomes a child and mother health issue. So we also want to look at what is it that we can do to ensure that our women, our kids, can grow in a prosperous Africa and in a way that, it's not risky for their livelihood. So we are also going to be talking, when we talk about people, particularly about healthcare, pharmaceuticals. I think I was just talking with the president of Niger yesterday, who said that people make more money on the continent selling fake drugs than they do selling real drugs. The problem is that those fake drugs kill our mothers, they kill our kids. And so we want to ensure with the African Union, the African Medical Association, the CDC, WHO, UNAIDS, and many others that are working in this field, that we can see how we make sure that, first of all, using the CFTA, the cost of drugs goes down, but that our mothers and our kids can do well. So I just want to thank all of you for being here this morning, for participating in this conversation. We believe that if we can do maternal health and childcare health, and if we can do energy, we have almost 90% of Agenda 2060 on a good track to be able to be successful. I want to again particularly thank the leaders that are with us today and hope that we can continue to have this conversation. Thank you very much for your attention.